Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. When we finally kiss goodnight. How I hate going out in the storm. But if you really hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. Even though it's 80 degrees in California. And I can't believe Christmas is coming. I still wear my parka every day. And my sandals, and my sandals, and my sandals.
Oh, there's no choice in yeah. I was concerned where she was going with that. She pulled it off though. But inside it's so delightful.
Keep going.
Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Oh, we're not.
Recording.
Now we're on.
Now we're on.
Right?
Now, yes. Wow. I always seem to do this. A little bit of action.
See this? Chastising me?
Just a little
Admonishing
control
me?
freak. A little control freak.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome back to Q&A Saturday.
Yes, absolutely.
It's so good, and I have to say, I think what we'll find with this one, besides a lot of Indian food scraps, less, how do I put this? Let's
speed it up.
Hey, sometimes thoughts take time, all right? You can always cut it. If I'm slow, just cut. I think less suggestive material without Jeff Gelman here.
Oh, yes.
I think we might this might be a little bit more of a family kind of clip rather than
an R-rated.
Yeah.
When I did the podcast, I had to rate it R just because Gelman was on it, not because of what we said.
Yeah.
Just him being there.
Yeah. Or if you watched it, then you saw him I don't want to get detailed, but he was obscuring some areas of his body that needed obscuring.
A little bit inappropriate.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some unsavory traits. Anyways, we love him to death. Jeff added some nice vibe.
Do you want to tell them how you chowed on your Indian food before I even got here? And it was gone, and I was, trying to eat. That's what I'm eating right now.
Guys, I was so hungry. So let me lay this out for you guys. Before I get blasted as being a bad guy, someone who's even worse than Jeff Gelman, who's exposing
All right. This is a G-rated show.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not exposing, but he was just, it was suggestive positions, right?
We don't have to talk about that anymore.
Okay. All right. We're done with that. We're moving on. The reality is that we've got a super busy time right now. We're moving towards Christmas, and we've got a bunch of dogs, and we tend to have, well, not 10, but we do have some dogs that are a little bit more challenging than usual. Well, I mean, we always get challenging dogs, but we kind of got some high-end guys. Hey! Hey! What do you typically try to do? So, a bit of a crunch time, lots of dogs, some dogs with some challenging issues. We've got some resource guarding, some people guarding. We've got some fear stuff. Your buddy Sean here is going to be working his tail off, most likely through Christmas, but I'm sure I'll sneak out. I'm sure I'll be able to get a tree and get some presents and do all that stuff. And then in other news, besides that, Laura Morgan looks like she's scheduled to head to Nola in just a few days to go work with some clients. Is that true? These rumors, are they founded?
The rumors are true.
Excellent. So you've got some folks that need some help. We got some Dachshunds, I think that need some help, and maybe a few others. Are you going to do the Mastiff? Mastiff coming down?
The Mastiff hopefully is going to come down, but I know there's 2 other dogs, and then maybe one more in the French Quarter that I was going to do. That just came
right.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Her. Yeah.
It's a nice, easy one. Cool.
Yeah. I don't know, easy. Maybe easy for you.
Well, no, I mean easy in that you get to waltz over to the French Quarter.
Yes, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Even if it makes your life hell, you're like, I'll leave some in the French Quarter. So, are you excited to go?
I'm really excited to go. I mean, it's kind of a Lone Ranger kind of operation. We're kind of trying to keep Nola rolling, but yeah, I'm excited.
Cool. You gonna take CJ?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. If he behaves himself.
If he behaves himself.
All right. Does he get a senior citizen discount on this flight? He just turned 9.
He just turned 9. Oh,
Right.
I won't say that. He just turned 8 plus 1. If I say NINE, it means no.
Right.
Right.
So he just got 8
Correct.
and 365.
Yep.
So, anyways, happy birthday to Mr. CJ. In other news, Doodles, also known as Junior, also known as the Wonder Dog or Wonder Bread,
Yeah.
turned 16. I want to say on the 15th. So it's coming up real soon.
Oh, Junior.
So yeah, so Junior, I'll shoot a little video, and maybe you can help me out. We can get capture a little quick clip of Doodles running around and doing his thing. Yeah, we threw some ball around today, and he's having a good time. Back legs aren't what they used to be. Like, you can compare it to the video that I shot last year, 2015, and you can see a difference. But we're pretty damn proud to have him around and still have him doing his thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, so enough rambling from us, because if I don't zip this up, Aria is going to come looking for us, right? So, hey everybody, Sean from The Good Dog, and this, to my right, who's headed to Nola, who's going to go wrangle a bunch of dogs and do a bunch of amazing stuff, is the lovely Laura Morgan. And all this good stuff, and snoring hounds that we have around us, is the Good Dogs Q&A Saturday episode number 61.
Ooh, you got
Check
that
it out.
one.
That's the first, right? That's one I can handle. All right, guys. So question number one.
This comes from Richard Chan. Richard says,
Richard Chan's a great fan. He's been following us and really supportive for quite some time now. So really nice to have him on the show.
Richard says, I want to ask you a question about flooding. Kirk, if a dog is scared of, say, the escalator and refuses to go up, if I pull him forcefully, is it going to backfire? If he gets on but keeps shivering, is it probably too much for him, isn't it? On the other hand, I'm wondering if I take out the treats and try to counter condition, wouldn't I be encouraging the dog to put on the brakes? Thanks.
Richard, this is such an awesome question. I think we both worked through this on a number of cases. I remember very particularly, we just got an actual message. She had 2 dogs that she rescued at like 10 years old that had never been upstairs, and she lived on the 2nd floor, and it was really a nightmare. And so basically I did what you're talking about, right? Prong collar on, and I could have spent the next 6 months trying to work with like food protocols to get this dog comfortable, but the reality was she's going to work. She needs the dogs to be able to go out and go potty. She had to get a neighbor every day to help her carry this 100-something pound dog down the stairs. The other one was a little bit better. And Anne-Marie? I can't remember. And just an awesome lady. And so basically what I did was, with leash and prong, I just went up and down the stairs, and it would absolutely be considered flooding. And I'm sure a lot of people would be like, that's too hard, it's inappropriate, it's hard on the dog, it's unnecessary, you could take your time, you could find a better method. But the fact of the matter is, she just messaged us just the other day, and both of the dogs have passed recently, but she said that work that we did to get her dog to be able to go up and down the stairs, like the next day, it was never a problem again, right? And so for me, you have to really look at practicality and go, okay, right, how much time do we have? What's practical? What's realistic? For flooding stuff, I think flooding gets a really bad name. I think there's a lot of people throwing fear around about, like, if you flood a dog with something, they're toast, and then you will, like, irrevocably, if that's the right word, Cujo? Irreversibly, thank you. Cause the dog to be in a negative state where they'll have negative associations, be panicked, freaked out. Here's the deal, though, right? So if you've got an escalator dog, and I've had to work with escalator dogs too, the trick is leash and prong, go up, dog's probably going to resist, stay calm, stay cool, add just enough leash pressure to get the dog to move with you, don't blow their mind, don't knock their head off, don't knock their block off, just some nice steady leash pressure. Dog's going to panic, ride the escalator up, immediately ride the escalator back down,
Do it again and again.
Immediately ride the escalator back up. And the whole trick with all this, and this is what I did with Anne Marie's dogs, I hope I'm getting her name right, was just repetition, repetition, repetition. And here's the part where like you could have fallout. Fallout is like you take a dog and you help them move through something they're really scared of, and you do it once, and you leave them locked in that space of like, that was terrible, that was really hard, or you continue to work them through it to where there's no residual anxiety or tension or stress with it. And they're like, those stairs like that I was so worried about, I don't even care anymore. I don't give a crap about those anymore. So I would say that try not to let the fear stuff stop you from Cujo, stop you from following your intuition. Be fair, be kind, make sure you use like, continuous like low pressure. It's not about banging, herky-jerking on the dog. It's about enough pressure to where the dog finally gives to it, and then lots of repetitions until the dog really kind of lets go of that fear stuff. And that goes for like when I've trained dogs for the pool. That goes for dogs. I've had oodles of dogs that don't want to go into the bathroom because of the shiny floor, stairs, treadmill. And the funny thing is all of them do all that stuff afterwards, and there's no fallout, there's no weirdness, there's no like shaking and panicking or anything like that. So do your thing, trust your intuition, Richard, and make sure you do lots of reps until the dog kind of lets it go. And that doesn't mean you have to stay there for 18 hours until the dog like is completely like doesn't shake, doesn't have any problems. There's likely to be some kind of like stress, and you might see some shaking and stuff like that. But that's how I'd approach it.
Totally. Yep.
Would you add anything to that very long diatribe?
That's awesome.
No, you're like, zip it up. Cool.
Thanks.
Hope that helps, Richard. All right. You ready for question number 2?
Question number 2 comes from Stacy Thompson Moran.
Hi, Stacy Thompson.
Stacy says, I have a mini dachshund that has resource guarding toys and bones. It's resource guarding toys and bones. You've given me tips on how to work with the e-collar. I've worked with toys and he's responding and giving up the toy with an out without much trouble.
Yep.
My question is, bones are another story. When giving him a bone to chew on, he will not relax and chew. He has to hide it. He will react to us and chase and growl at the cat when he has it. So how do I work on him giving it up? And if he doesn't even try to chew it, just bury it and guard it. Do I even have to give him bones? He does not even have to chew on it. Short answer.
I'm tempted to just let Laura jump on this one.
I'm just saying.
I can tell this got your ire up.
I just think it's funny. The reason why I'm so kind of passionate about this one is because I've told you guys before, when Polar Bear was like, Polar Bear, the first dog I had that got me to meet Sean walked through my door and helped me out with Poe, when he was like guarding, everything, right? We're talking water, his food. He's such a little brat. He's 6 months old and he was guarding water, his food, bones, toys, the bed. Okay, but you ask, why would such a little brat get bones and toys? Exactly. That is my point. So
it's a good question.
Seriously, okay, Stacy, we're going to give you protocols on how to do this now, but the end of your question is so perfect. It's like, why? It's like, should I even give him that stuff? No. If dogs don't just get bones because that's in the cartoons, like dogs chew on bones. Dogs get bones because they earn them.
Yeah.
So he's been like a brat, burying it and guarding it and growling. It's like, are you kidding me? You're going to get rewarded by even getting anything after that? No. So to me, an out command with the e-collar, which, we're going to do a video on that, I guess.
Yeah, I think she's already started working on that with toy stuff, but she's finding more resistance with the bone.
Sure. So you raise the level with the bone if you want to work on it, or you take away the bone, you don't give bones, and you work on the toy stuff. But even more than that, you need to work on the whole foundation of the dog. Because if you're not working, what someone's called it now, Laura's lockdown, which I really like.
Yeah.
Even though it came from you. But I'll take it. Laura's lockdown has a nice ring to it. Tara Isaacson talked about that. But yeah, I think like any dog that's feeling empowered enough to guard and growl and do all that stuff, that is not a dog that deserves toys or bones.
Hasn't earned them.
And also does not deserve freedom in the house. I know that sounds really harsh to people that are just tuning in, but that's how we roll. If you can picture it, right? So, hey, I have the run of the house. I get toys. I'm not growling over those. I have the run of the house. I can be on couches. I can be on beds.
I was growling at those, but Mom wouldn't kick my butt and said no.
She kicked my butt. They don't really matter much to me. But I can be on a couch. I can be here. I can be there. And then, I get this juicy bone. Mom walks by, growl. It's like, I'm the prince. So what we do is we want to remove that prince stuff so that you get a little bit more of like a humbled dog and a dog that's listening and more relaxed because they are humbled.
And safe.
And not going to be tossed out of your house and added to the shelter. So you've got, then you've got a dog that's not going to growl at you over bones if he ever does earn them, which he could.
All of my notes are pretty much right in line with Laura Morgan.
So funny because I learned everything I say from you.
So let me just run down this list. I wouldn't be rewarding a resource guarder with bones or toys. Hey, look at that. 1 point for Laura. Like she said, dogs that are in that space, they don't deserve it. It's not good for them, and it creates a negative, stressed out state of mind. So rather than seeing it like, oh, wow, he doesn't get a bone to chew on, so he's sad, think about that giving him that item creates tension, stress, and anxiety that makes him more uncomfortable. So you kind of need to flip that script a little bit. Also, and then, I just basically said, yeah, it's putting him in a negative pressure state, which I just covered a second ago. Yeah. But here's like the final answer. No. You don't have to give him a bone. You don't have to give him any bones. There's no like legislature written that dogs need to have bones, especially dogs that are doing naughty things with bones. Like, he's taking it. Why do you think he's taking it and burying it? It's all possessive stuff. Yeah. It's all like, and I know people are like, well, dogs bury bones. Like, my dogs don't. They sit out here with antlers and they chew on them. And one of them drops it and the other one's like, cool, I can go in and grab that. But there's no fights, there's no scuffles, there's no battles. And so they get that privilege. Any one of my dogs would be going after another one of my dogs over an item like that, or a human, they would rue the day, right? Gosh, yeah. So that's not about being a hard ass, except maybe a little bit. And the reality is that I run my house by a certain set of rules, which allows me a lot of latitude, right? And it goes back to our same old saw, which is like, if you can be as believable in your discipline as you can be in your affection, you get a hell of a lot more latitude with your dog. If you're going to be more lenient with your affection, you're going to find that your dog's going to push, and you can have a lot more problems. So let's get rid of this necessity, or this, how do I put it, this, not responsibility, but compulsion, obligation to give these dogs this stuff, then that's what'll make them happy. Oh, no. Give them structure, give them rules, give them consequences for silly behavior.
Keep them in your house.
That's how you'll keep them good. He shouldn't be having any of those privileges, whether it's a dog or a human. If you're engaging in negative, bad behaviors, your job as owner and as parent is to set consequences that are significant enough for behaviors in the future to be better. And don't set them up to fail. Just take the heat off yourself, have some fun, get rid of the bones, and like, your dog's already like a stress case with that stuff. So let's just get rid of it and make your life simple.
Cool.
Sound good? Boy, did we get long in the tooth, even though I know that's not the right saying.
Thank you.
LaDawn's going to get on me for saying that again.
Like, I thought that meant.
Does not mean you're moving slow. That means you're old.
I don't think she said that. I think she said, I thought that meant.
No. We had a big knockdown, drag out fight. Yep.
Question number 3 comes from Sonia Hewitt.
Hey, Sonia.
Sonia says, hi, I have a 7-year-old black lab pity mix named Rowdy who I've started e-collar training. I have the mini educator. For several days I've been working on the walk with him and making progress.
Yep.
Today, however, he resisted going on a walk with me several times by planting his feet and refusing to walk.
The old refusal.
Whenever I gave the command heel without even hitting the stem, he flinched and looked at me with what seemed like fear. I've tested his stem several times and I only have it at 16, the lowest level where I noticed a reaction. I was wondering what you thought my next step should be because I don't want him to fear me. I do need to move forward with the e-collar training, though, as he currently lives separated from the rest of my dogs due to his resource guarding.
Because he's naughty. Yeah.
including over me. Thanks so much for your time.
Right. Okay, Ms. Sonia, let's do a quick little check-in here. I've got some notes.
Good question.
Yeah, it really is. So here's the thing, Sonia. A lot of pushy dogs will give you a really hard time when you start consistently laying down rules and expectations, right? So we get a million dogs that come in here and we start working like they've been on harnesses or whatever, flat buckle collars, whatever. And then we decide we're going to use prong and e-collar, and we're going to start making training non-negotiable. When I say heel, you move with me. When I say stop, you stop. So what I think very likely is happening, of course, we're always gambling a bit because I don't know your dog and I haven't spent time one-on-one with you, but there's a really good chance from what you're sharing that your dog is just locking up and really giving you the old college try of like, do I really have to do this? And we get that all the time. Dogs are like, this listening stuff sucks and I'm just going to stay right here. Now, if you adhere to that and you let that fly, what you're going to find out is that your dog's going to do it over and over and over and over and over again. So first thing I'd check is I'd check really carefully that you're getting great contact with your e-collar. If you're not getting good contact, then 16 may at times be really mild, and then when your dog turns his head a certain way or the fur comes out of the way, the 16 may be really intense and be way too much for your dog, right? So you also may have one of those dogs that doesn't show a reaction initially. You may, if you look really closely, this could be a good lesson for you or a good exercise, is put the e-collar on your dog, put him in a sit, stand on the side of wherever the e-collar's at, like Laura would be watching right here, and then start at 2, tap, 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 3, tap, 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 4, tap, 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 and look and see if this moves, right? 16's pretty high. 16's, I mean,
really high,
it's not crazy, but for a dog's first perception, it's pretty darn high. For me, like
Sometimes
after
these pity mixes just.
yeah, after 10 or 12, I always go back down to 0 and start over again. So that would be something that I would be really looking into, is to make sure that you've got awesome contact straight out of the gate. So I would suspect you should probably be getting contact at a lower level than that. Now, I know that might sound like I contradicted myself because I said, sounds like you could be being bratty, right? But I'm just going to put all the chips on the table. Yeah. So we could be getting good contact and having a bratty dog who's saying, I don't like being told what to do. Or we could be having a dog who's not so bratty, even though you said he's got resource guarding and stuff like that, and he's getting inconsistent contact with the stem. And then so sometimes when you're hitting him at at 16, he's going, wow, that's too much, and then he's shutting down and maybe giving you a fearful response. Like, okay, so contact is always one of the major issues. If we don't have good contact, we're kind of toast, we're kind of screwed. So it's the first and foremost, and especially when I'm working with a new dog, I always make sure it's snugger than usual, because you can always loosen up down the line. But I always want to make sure that those first few interactions are really solid. If you're not using thick fur, or if you're not using the longer contact points that come with your e-collar, swap them out. Excuse me. Try the longer contact points. See how that works. Make sure that collar's snug. Typically, owners find that the collar is too snug for them, and so they keep it loose, and then they don't get good contact on the dog, which means they have to use higher levels, which means when the dog moves his head the wrong way, you're going to actually blast the dog. So much more humane to make sure that that collar is like one with the dog, and when you turn, the dog's neck actually moves with the collar. The dog's collar doesn't move independent of the neck. That's super important. If you got great contact, then you know that your dog's probably giving you a bratty thing, and then it's time to work through it. Make sure he understands what the rules are. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
You doing good?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Great.
Patricia, question number 4.
Didn't we just answer Patricia?
No, that was Sonia.
Okay.
Question number 4 is from Patricia.
Oh, yeah.
Patricia says, I just purchased a mini educator.
Yep.
Have a female deaf pit boxer and a hearing male boxer.
Okay.
After finding their working level, what is the best order of commands to work on with the e-collar, considering her deafness and that he is dog reactive?
Goodness gracious. They're putting me to work tonight.
They certainly are.
She didn't want to answer all these? Whew. Okay. Patricia, I wrote some notes for you because you've got kind of a complex situation.
Definitely.
So what order of e-collar commands? So there's a lot of flexibility in this, to be perfectly frank, and we mess around with it a lot. I'd say right now our go-to is, once we've done leash and prong work, our go-to is either e-collar heel or e-collar place command, right? Now you could also augment that with e-collar recall, which used to be what we did, but we found it easier to kind of mix things around and move them around and do e-collar heel first and then do e-collar place. And the cool thing about that is, so we get a nice walk started, right? Dog gets conditioned to the e-collar, bring him inside after that, do e-collar heel, nice and slow. Hopefully you've done prong work that makes it nice and easy. Once your dog is rock solid on place and like won't move unless you ask them off or release them, then you can start recalling your dog off of place, and your dog is like already in a stable spot rather than following you around or distracted by the outside world. You can do it in your living room, right? Dog's in place, you get behind him, press the button at his motivational level, say come, start to guide him gently with the leash, button goes off as soon as the dog commits, repetition, repetition, repetition. That's how we start to get a dog doing nice recalls. And then when you get really fancy, you add a second place command, and that place command can be like 4 feet away. It doesn't need to be like across, a football field, just a few feet away. And if you can start to build those building blocks of like, go to place, don't move, recall off of place towards me, and go to another mat and don't move. You really kind of have the building blocks of like motion to stationary, motion to stationary, and that's kind of like the whole deal. Now, once you get the place command happening, if you've once again done leash and prong with sit and down, then it's super easy to condition sitting down with the e-collar once the dog's on place. And they typically like to do it because they're on a soft mat, so it makes it even easier a lot of times.
It's like an easy exercise to just kind of like get used to the e-collar, get used to listening. It's like, it's really low impact if you could. For an exercise, it's not like major long line recalls outside or something.
Dog's all stressed out and like overwhelmed.
Just like place command, little recall. Place command, little recall.
Yeah, think about it this way, right? Bring your dog into a quiet living room, put a mat down, quietly teach him place command, nice and easy with the e-collar. Place, repetition, place, repetition. Dog gets that. 15, 20 minutes later, wow, we're looking solid. Then I'm going to start recalling him off of there. Dog's like, cool, this is pretty easy. There's not a lot of distractions. I can like focus and concentrate. And then when that looks great, which might be the next day or the day after that, you add another mat, recall him to that mat. He's got to stay there, recall back and forth. Once that's looking great, Junior. Once that's looking great, then because he's on a mat, because he's on a mat, then you can ask for sitting down, and it's really easy because once again the dog is on the mat, and they tend to want to lay down on those mats more easily. So I think we did a pretty good job. I think that's a good, we used to do recall first, always, and we really kind of changed our game up. T-Money came along, and T-Money was like, teach place first, and you can really like have a dog anchored and move off of there, and it's worked.
That's on our DVD and all.
It's worked like a charm. So that would be my recommendation.
Cool. Okay, question number 5 comes from Miss Jacqueline Neef. Jacqueline says, I love you guys.
Did I fall asleep?
No?
No.
She says, I thank you so much for giving us this outlet. My story, Sparky is a rescue 8-year-old deaf Jack Russell that we adopted 4 months ago. He's had numerous issues. He chewed all the hair off his feet and underbelly, was oozing and sore.
Good grief.
Human aggression, scars to prove it. Food aggression, pooping everywhere, and we quickly discovered he lost many of his teeth through chewing his cage. We have worked well and hard with the prong knee collar trainer and seen tremendous improvements and cured him of most of his bratty behavior. He's now happily caged, heals beautifully, responds to recall, and will stay in place for an hour plus. Yay! Yet, we still experience growling, teeth baring if he's touched, even if he initiates it. He craves that attention. He self-corrects somewhat, but he's used to in that he used to attack, but now he just retreats to his cage.
Yep.
I responded by taking him by his leash and putting him in a stay on his training mat while with an e-collar correction. My question is, I'd like to cure him of his fear, but am I going about it the right way? What should I do in the moment? We're fully committed to giving this rescue pup options he's never had and an opportunity to live with a family of love and boundaries. Whew.
That's a whole big question.
Jacqueline.
And that's Jacqueline, right?
Yeah.
Our regular lady, Jacqueline?
Yeah.
I think she went to post this last week.
Oh,
and,
yeah?
Yeah, so she finally got through. Jacqueline, I looked out for you to make sure you got on this one. So,
That's a good question.
Yeah. So, showing teeth during affection and interaction, correct? So, I know what you're going to say. Like, why are we petting this dog that doesn't seem to enjoy it, or seems to be conflicted by it, or seems to have a negative reaction to it?
Conflicted is the best way to put this.
Yep.
So like you were saying, like the dog comes up, right? Tries to get a little stuff. You give it some stuff because he wants it, and then he's like, "Arr," and then runs away.
It's so common.
It's so common.
It's so common.
And strangely enough, like in dogs like Jack Russells, in terrier mixes, in dogs like that. I mean, a lot of dogs, but terriers specifically.
Yep.
We've seen more of that stuff, or like smaller dogs. It's just kind of like it's insecurity, and it's like, I'll let you take the reins, but I'll jump in later.
Okay, well, nice jumping though.
Thanks.
Okay, so Miss Jacqueline, I would say cut out the affection, right? It's obviously not something that's turning into a positive situation. So this affection, which is intended to be positive and is intended to connect you to the dog and intended to make the dog feel more comfortable, is not creating that reality.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I don't touch pet dogs who have negative reactions to human touch, right? I would much rather play hard to get and get those dogs into a space where they're like so desiring it that they're in a very different gear, very different mode. And if they were to get to that place where they so desire it and then actually ask for some kind of interaction in a healthy, non-demanding fashion, I would, and if I got any teeth or any like raised lips action, Cujo, I would definitely correct, right? For me, like, you know, we've got Caspar right now, who's the resource guarding guy, and he does a lot of raising the lips anytime he's uncomfortable, anytime he doesn't like what's going on. So we're working him through that, and we're really trying to create distinctions for him about, like, buddy, that's not an acceptable behavior. You have to find a better choice, right? So we're really working through, and that's why he's still got the muzzle on, because he's not in the safest spot. So I would say affection is not a positive, not a helpful methodology for you guys to go, even though your intentions, I get, are good. But what I would do, and it would be kind of I'd be very curious to see how you do with it. It's kind of a double-pronged approach. It's, if you get any nastiness, correct it with the e-collar. Hopefully your dog's on e-collar. But otherwise, do food work, right? Keep it really simple. Do food work where this Jack Russell, it is a Jack Russell, right? Yep, this Jack Russell only gets to eat out of somebody's hand when he's being the most polite, sweet, kind, awesome, Junior, sweet, awesome guy in the world, right? Draw him to you, cause him to be desirous of an interaction rather than like, hey, we're going to pet you and we're going to do this. No way. Play hard to get. Like, it's Scrooge time. It's like, you're a dog that lives in my house that I don't even care about. I know it sounds rough, but like being in that state of mind of like, you're a dog that's not anywhere in my emotional radar. You're a dog that I need to behave well, and then I need to get into a really good space. Hercules is sitting on Manny. Sorry, it's distracting. It's a dog I need to get into a good space as a priority more than anything else. So using food work, playing hard to get, not giving affection, what does that cause? It causes the dog to be like, I want to interact with you. I want to interact with you, right? And it may take several days for that dog to be food-driven enough to care, to make that like motion towards you, to actually take that initiative to go towards trying to engage with you and take the food. And so that's what I would do. I don't stand for any teeth baring, any monkey business like that. I certainly don't pet dogs that are in that space. I correct dogs that are in a negative, conflicted, awkward space. And some people might be like, well, that's really terrible because they're conflicted and awkward. Tough. Make a better choice. Don't raise your lips. Don't like gnash your teeth at me. Don't threaten me. Don't do any of that stuff. Behave yourself. Be polite. And then me and you can move forward into a really nice gear. But that's my personal philosophy.
Yeah.
And then I use food stuff to get the dog into a good space to where we bond, become really good friends, and I continue to use e-collar and all the other parts of the program to make sure I hold the dog accountable, bust his butt, get him listening, and then he gets rewarded with food stuff, and he works for everything that he's going to get.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps. It's a very long and drawn out answer, but it's detailed, and a lot of these questions are pretty hard ones this week.
Yeah, but
so,
can I add something?
oh, please, yeah.
So, Jacqueline, I feel like the other hard part of this is that your dog may not be that dog who's likes affection as much as we want him to. So it doesn't mean that, of course, he's coming to you and he's wanting engagement and then maybe conflicted about it. It doesn't mean that he doesn't want affection at all. That's like the last thing I'm implying. What I am implying is that there are some dogs that just aren't as into the stuff meaning like human interaction, petting, all that stuff. They're just more independent. They're just more dog-like. Like, they're just like, I'm not really into that. Like, I don't need that, So there has to be, you can do that counter conditioning with the food. Obviously, all the protocols, correct for the growling, correct for any silly stuff. Like, even if he doesn't like it, doesn't mean he can treat you like that. It's not cool.
Yep.
But what I do want you to check out, Cujo Plots, speaking of bad dogs, what I do want you to check out is like advocate for the type of dog that he is. So it's something that we have to talk to clients about a lot is like really respecting who your dog is. If he doesn't like that stuff, if he's coming up to you just out of habit, or he's coming up to you because that's where sometimes the good stuff comes from, and he's kind of like, oh, I have to do this to get something, just look into him and be like, okay, what kind of dog are you? Are you the dog that is way happier? 9. It's like triple duty right now. Yeah. Are you the dog that's way happier just being a dog with me and then like doing recalls at the park and being your like perfect obedient little partner, but like I'm good with the little head scratch and that's it. Some dogs are just like that. So in all this journey, promise me that you're also going to just look into like who your dog is. Just like watch him and like okay, like does he like this stuff really? Is it, or maybe do I need to find other ways to give him affection? Are there?
And I think I was just going to add. I think one of the tricky parts to that is that when owners feel like dogs are soliciting that.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Is like, but sometimes it comes from habit, or it comes from like I solicit this because this is what we do, right?
And then I feel uncomfortable.
Yep.
Like even with my guy Junior, right? Junior's 16, or it'll be 16 in a week or so. Junior is like very connected, follow me around, do all that stuff, but he doesn't want to be pet a lot. You pet him on the head, he's not into it. You touch him a lot, he's not into it. He likes connection on his terms, and that doesn't mean like we toe the line around Junior. It just means that like every dog's different as far as what feels good, what they enjoy, and so I think what Laura's saying to adjust to that is some super solid advice.
Yeah. Just really, really watching your dog and advocating for who he is. And if he's good with dogs and he's not maybe that perfect, like, lovey-dovey one that you want, like a Belle type dog that'll come cuddle up to you, then get another dog. Get a second dog. And, like, have your JRT be the guy who, like, hey, this is who we go to the park with, we do our thing. And then your other dog is, like, the cuddle bug you can get away with that stuff.
You said cuddle bug. You did, didn't you?
Cuddle bug.
Cuddle bug, that's what I said.
Cuddle bug.
Yeah.
I thought you said cuddle bun. Question number 6.
We are slow poke.
We are slow poking it.
Slow boat to China here.
Not too bad.
We're doing all right? Okay.
I don't want to tell you that because then you'll drag it out. Just kidding. All right.
So we do some speed action here. You ready?
We've got Miss Carrie.
Hey,
for
Carrie.
question number 6.
Yep.
Carrie says, our 1.5-year-old GSD likes to lay on the front door of our suburban home every morning after he eats and look out our glass storm door.
Yes.
He's e-collar trained and has a structured life, meaning he waits at thresholds, obeys commands before eating, heels nicely, but is leash reactive with other dogs.
Yep.
Holds the place command, doesn't sleep in our bed, etc. What is happening though is that when someone with or without a dog walks down the street in front of our house, he gets totally amped and starts barking. It's more like a scream than a bark. In response, I've been tapping him and sending him to his placemat, which he readily complies to. My question is, should I not let him watch out the door and avoid the situation completely, and for how long, or continue doing what I'm doing with the thought that he'll start making better choices, like run to place rather than bark, or something else entirely? Thanks for all that you do.
You are very welcome, Carrie. And the really great news here is that is Laura's secret surprise question. Yay!
Let me write that down.
It's a GST.
Yep,
It's right up your alley.
it's totally up my alley.
And there's some symptoms in there that I thought were reminiscent of things you're familiar with.
Okay,
So.
Carrie, let's do this thing. All right. First of all, Carrie, awesome that he's e-collar trained. You guys are like structured and you're a bomb.
Way ahead of the game.
Yep, you're an awesome owner, and I
Yep.
can see your little avatar, and he's the cutest little guy. Okay, he's 1.5 though, right? So the weird thing with these German Shepherds that come in is that talking about conflicted. We've got dogs that are like, I'm supposed to be protective, but I'm actually really insecure and I don't really understand. This is like really weird and overwhelming for me and I'm not really sure. So we
Desmond.
see that a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
Desmond is one example of like a billion that we work with. So I have a feeling your cutie little GSD is in that same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you have him e-collar trained. He loves to work. You can tell. Like, I love to run to place command. You know, you call him to his place and he's like, no problem, Mom, I got it.
Yep.
But when the overwhelm gets too much, like you said, he's still reactive to dogs, even though he's e-collar trained. And he gets reactive to people walking by when he's laying on the porch doing his thing.
Right.
That to me that screams of that conflict of, oh, I'm supposed to like be protective and I'm supposed to, but I'd rather just hang out. I'd rather just do a command. I'd rather just work for you and be a cool German Shepherd that just looks scary and isn't, right? So what I would do, you guys are doing great on everything. I would really make sure you knock out that leash reactivity. I have a feeling he's probably on the lighter side of things. I don't know him. We'd love to see some videos if you want to send those along. But I have a feeling that he's on the lighter side. So if he's e-collar trained, you guys should be correcting for that early and higher because he's a big dog, right? So say his like normal e-collar level is like 10 on an educator, which I can't even feel. Well, that's a lie. I think I can feel 8, but it doesn't really feel like much. So 10 on an educator for
Stop lying to people.
for a big German Shepherd, right? Say that's his level. You're out on a walk. He starts to whatever, get that little German Shepherd like swagger when he sees a dog. Way before he even gets the swagger, bang at 30. And he's like, oh, Mom, but I'm supposed to protect you. And you're like, no, not today. Not supposed to protect me today. So you knock that out with the leash reactivity, right? And then with the stuff going by with the neighbors and all that, we don't need to have him like do a, I don't know what the word is, replacement behavior, I guess?
Yeah, that's good. Incompatible.
Yes, so we don't need him to like, oh, I see a person, I run to my
Recall
place.
away. Or,
yeah, or I see a person and I like, whatever. I would rather he just sees a person and it's kind of like, I don't need to take care of this. Mom's got it. And really, how we do that is correcting that behavior and saying, knock it off.
Yep.
Like, if you had a kid in the house that was like, Mom, I'm going to protect the house. You'd be like, are you kidding? Get out of here with that, right? So it's that same kind of thing. He gets all huffy about someone who's just like walking their baby in a stroller, and you're going to say, knock that off. You're going to correct that. And if he's up, you say down, and you correct, and you say no about the barking, and then you put him in a command. He doesn't need to run away. He can hang on the porch, or what is he doing? Like on a storm door?
He's at the front door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's wherever he is, he can just hang there if you want him to. Or you can put him in place and just have him in place. But he doesn't need to like do a behavior. You just need to get better. I mean, you've got the e-collar on board. You just need to get better at correcting earlier and saying knock it off for stuff that is not acceptable.
And more significant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I can I build on that real quick?
Of course.
I just have 2 sentences. Okay, this reminds me a lot of Polar Bear and some of his early shenanigans, like going bananas at windows and things like that. And what we did was a couple high e-collar corrections, not low, not medium, high, and made going bananas at the door or the windows absolutely something he didn't want anything to do with. So as long as you undermine, underwhelm, and under-inspire your dog with pressure or corrections, you're going to see the behavior continue and continue and continue. And what you'll do is you'll manage your dog, which is what you're doing, right? Dog starts to go ballistic at the storm door. You call him away. I think you might even said like a low-level correction, and then you call him away. And that low-level correction is probably just getting his attention, and then you're giving a command or an incompatible command to have him go lay down in place. To be honest, if that was me, I would let my dog lay at that spot, and the moment he started to get silly, I would nail him with the e-collar and say, buddy, you can get as excited as you want, but do not engage in that behavior. And what you will find is if your consequences are significant, and you've conditioned your dog to the e-collar, he'll stop doing all of that stuff. Now, the choices come down to, do I manage my dog with light pressure and tons of repetition, and I have to watch him for the rest of my life? Or do I set up significant consequences for my dog and let him know that I really mean business and have him do his very best work sans my presence? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to be standing here watching him. He goes, that behavior gets me in trouble, I'm not going to do it. Now, after you nail him, you can call him away if that feels beneficial, like say somebody's coming to the door or something like that. But otherwise, if it's just him being nutty at the front door and just from people walking by and no one's coming up, just nail him. Like, just let's make a big no. I don't want this to be, I don't want Q&A Saturday to be something that's just all about like blasting and correcting, because it's the furthest thing from it. And if you watched us daily, you'd find that like 99% of what we do is very, very, very soft, lots of repetition, lots of consistency, lots of proofing. And then we have the second phase, right? So we've got this obedient state of mind work that we do to get the dog into the right zone, listening, responsive, off-leash train. And then we've got the behavior mod side of this. And the behavior mod side of this can be the messier side, but that's the side where we say, knock that off, no more of that. And so with only one, with only the obedience side of it, you will manage your dog forever. And people will tell you that, no, eventually he'll let it go because you've done so many repetitions. Monkey business. Let your dog know that doesn't fly, I don't want it anymore, and do it at a level he cares about enough, and you'll see behaviors change like that. And then you can call him around and have him jump through a hoop of fire and like make you scrambled eggs, whatever you want him to do. That's great, but make sure you correct that initial moment of being a jackass, because that's kind of what he's being, and he's been allowed to get away with it, so it's been reinforced. So that is the answer to that. Nice teamwork, nice tag team.
Thanks. Okay, question number 7.
See this, guys?
Comes from Raquel. Raquel says, you are an inspiration for all dog trainers and owners. Here's my question.
So you better be nice to me, see that?
Oh, look at you.
See, she better be nice.
Here's my question. When you get a highly reactive dog, what's your approach on putting the muzzle on? The same goes for prong collars and e-collars, since all of them require you to be close to the dog and handle them up close. Do you have the owner put them on? I appreciate your help in advance and hope to see you guys next year at a T3. Yay!
Ooh,
love you.
Raquel, we sure hope we see you at T3. That would be fantastic.
Cool.
We've got all the dates up on the website, www.trainthetrainers.jeffandsean.com. All the 2016 are up, right?
I think so. Well, no, first half.
First half. Cool. So you can definitely take a look at that and nail that down. Now, when it comes to muzzle stuff, this is really cool. It's a really great question and good conversation. So we get a lot of dogs in here with dog issues, resource guarding, or human issues. And what happens is, and this can be like a game changer for you safety-wise, is that every dog that comes in, if they have any of this stuff, proclivities for any kind of like naughty business, they have to be muzzle conditioned prior, like at least 2 weeks prior before they come in to work with us.
Yeah.
Now, what that means is that the owners have done work with food and muzzle, conditioning them over and over and over again.
Give them Josh Moran's video.
Yeah, Josh Moran, the barefoot dog trainer. You can YouTube that up, and that video will walk you through pretty simply. The only challenge you might find with that video is if you've got a really aggressive dog,
Yeah.
and you're having a hard time like interacting with him.
Yeah.
The dog he's using is basically a dog that probably has other dog issues, and he's using food to condition him to feel good about the muzzle.
Stuff you want to be really careful, and that
Yeah.
may be something that you want to do and have a longer board and train,
Or have a pro involved. So we've had dogs show up here before, like JJ the Chow, who the owners couldn't do any muzzle conditioning with. So that took a longer program because we actually had to do that work.
Yeah.
But typically, 9 out of 10 dogs, like Caspar that came in, so he came in with some bites on his record and some naughty business.
Yeah.
So before he came in, Britt sent out homework and said he needs to be muzzle conditioned. Here's the video, here's the link. Make sure you practice this and get him really solid, which means he comes in, feels comfortable with the muzzle on. The owners put the muzzle on, right? They bring him in. Whether the muzzle's on when they bring him in or not depends on how serious he is. But before anything else transpires, owners put the muzzle on, then they leave. We take the dog and we put the dog away, and then we work the dog from there. So that allows us to be able to every morning or even that day be able to work more intimately with the dog, right? The muzzle's on, that means we can put an e-collar on him, we can put a prong collar on him, we can put a slip lead on him, we can put a dominant dog collar on him. We can start working with the dog and start making some progress in building a relationship, building a bridge. But that starts and is only really allowable or obtainable because the muzzle's there for safety.
Right.
Without it, like, you are really in a tough spot. If you're not going to have a dog muzzle trained that's got biting issues, trying to get a prong collar on, you might as well I don't have a good thing to say for that, but like get some oven mitts, get something, because like you're gonna get chomped up. So the real trick to this stuff is making sure that the dog is muzzled before he comes in, that he's comfortable wearing the muzzle before he comes in, and that the owner puts the muzzle on before they leave, so that way you're safe to do whatever you need to do with whatever tools you need to put on, and that really is what's going to help you remain safe. And then you can remove the muzzle as you see fit, as things become comfortable. So that's kind of the trick with that. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that clarifies. It can be a mystery if you don't know how to kind of set that up preemptively with the owners. Then the dog just shows up and he's kind of bitey, and you're like, what the hell do I do and how do I stay safe? And that's terrible.
And if you were to set it up with the owners and they weren't able to do it, like I said before, you definitely want to add time on to the board and train for you to do it. Because until that muzzle is on safely, you can't do work. Like, if a dog comes in and the dog's not muzzle conditioned and Sean can't put the muzzle on safely and all that, he can't be working place or, recall or anything on the e-collar.
Does that make sense as far as the timeline, Raquel? Because the reason Laura brings that up is that if the owner can't do that work previously, which basically they do like a week to 2 weeks of conditioning, that means we've got to find a way to get that dog muzzle conditioned, which means creating food drive, and then slowly, even though we've got zero relationship and the dog's probably not thrilled with us, we've got to find a way to get the dog to accept the muzzle willingly so we can do that safely. So that's really the trick. Otherwise, if it's a really dangerous dog, and I don't know whether you're safe to be working with really dangerous dogs, but if it's a really dangerous dog, you're gonna need more time in order to safely move through that process.
Yep, totally. Question number 8.
Katie,
is a double
double whammy.
Yeah. So Lauren asked the part. She was saying that that her fosters like chew everything in the house. And then Katie says, it's kind of like for both of you guys.
Right.
Katie says, "Hi, Sean and Laura. I have a 1-year-old lab counter lab that counter surfs a lot.
Yep.
But only when I'm not watching him. We use leave it even when he starts sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. And it works like a charm. Or down once we catch his paws up where he also obeys. But the damage could already be done and I don't want to have to watch him all the time. He'll
Right.
go up there to drink water out of a sink full of dishes, grab a towel, or eat food. Since he only does this when I'm not looking or more than 10 feet away, I don't know how to correct it proactively. I'm not against the e-collar, just don't fully understand how you wean them off of it and the dog doesn't just do the bad behavior anymore. Thanks for the awesome encouragement and self-help stuff you guys post.
Ah, you're so welcome, Katie and Lauren.
Yes.
So we just combined these to try and make sure we could get a couple, get both you guys some answers that would hopefully help. So, like crate training, guys, crate training is such an easy workaround. So if you've got any destruction in the house, your dog hasn't earned, just like we were talking about dogs with toys and treats and chews and stuff, if your dog hasn't managed to earn your trust to be able to be in the house without any destruction, then that dog needs to be crated. And if you don't crate your dog, you're really setting your dog up to fail.
Yep.
You're setting your dog up to maybe even ingest something dangerous,
Yep.
which might cost you a lot of money, which could make your dog very sick, or in worst case scenario, could actually kill your dog.
Yep.
So let's get e-collars. Let's get crate training on board to make sure that we get these guys in the safest place to where in your absence they can't make any mistakes.
Yes.
I mean, I really want you to think about it in that really simple fashion, is that so many people are bummed out about crates and they feel they're hard on the dog, or the dog's imprisoned, or the dog is like sequestered and he's bummed out. But the truth of the matter is, most dogs left out of a crate that have any kind of destructive stuff are way more anxious. They're just traveling, circulating around the house, looking for ways to try and like cope with their stress and anxiety, and how do I channel it out? Chew this, chew this, chew this, bark, 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 stuff like that.
Grab this and eat this and
Yeah, so if you can put them in a crate, get them crate trained, you can actually have them chill out and relax. Now, if you work long days, that might involve you getting a dog walker and making sure that somebody comes in halfway through the day, gets the dog out, and make sure that the dog has got potty breaks and all that, but then goes back into the crate so there's no destruction. So that's first. To address the actual issue as far as like counter surfing and any destruction stuff that might be going on. So here's where it gets tricky. You either need like a drop cam, or you need a baby cam, or you need FaceTime on your iPhone, something like that. But you need to be able to watch the dog. You need to be able to see what the dog is up to. The whole trick, like just let's keep it simple. The whole trick is like to like bamboozle your dog. You want to be gone, have your dog think that you're not here. You want to use some kind of surveillance equipment to make sure you can watch your dog, and then you need corrective tools or devices to make sure that as you watch, when your dog makes a mistake, you can correct and then teach your dog that behavior is inappropriate. And then that's how your dog moves through it, right? So low pro fashion, like low key way to go about it is long line and a prong collar. And you could, which it gets a little bit dicey because you're like, well, how do I make sure my dog thinks I'm not in the house? You could have a long line on him and be like out, in another room, and then set him up with like lots of juicy, yummy stuff, whatever they might be, like socks or shoes or sausages or cheese or whatever. And then as soon as your dog makes a move on that stuff, you're watching through the camera, really stiff, nice pop with the leash and prong collar, and your dog goes, whoa, getting up on the table or whatever I was going to grab. Not fun, not cool, I'm not into it. The other part, which is a lot easier and a lot more effective, to be perfectly honest, because you don't have to be anywhere close. You could be looking through a window, you could be watching through a camera while you're sitting in your car or something like that, is to do e-collar work. And e-collar works so well for like counter surfing, for any destruction, like whether it's like chewing on your table, your shoes, your socks, your carpet, anything that you don't want. It's such a piece of cake. All you have to do is have these two components. Junior, your two components are, you've got to be able to watch your dog without your dog knowing you're there, and then have tools on your dog that you can correct to be able to move them through it, right? Or third is the dog is in a crate, and then you have to sweat any of that stuff, right? But a lot of people want their dog to have more freedom and work through that stuff. And that's fine
Yeah.
as long as you're willing to do the other work to help them make that great, make that progress and good choices. So with the e-collar stuff, I would suggest that you guys do some e-collar conditioning, which doesn't have to be a big deal. Go to our website, www.thegooddog.net, and click on our free do-it-yourself videos. And you can do it in a number of ways. I would say the two easiest ways would be like e-collar heel or e-collar recall. You can even do e-collar place. But any one of those three are pretty simple. Probably the simplest would be place command e-collar, and the whole concept is like get your dog used to the sensation of the e-collar, right? So he's not freaked out by it, so he's not worried about it. And then once you've done that for like a week and your dog's like, I know what place is on e-collar and I'm comfortable with this tool and this device and everything's great, you go hide out and you're waiting in your like tool shed or wherever the heck you are, and your dog makes that move, and as soon as you see him go up on that counter, you set him up, you leave stuff out, you roll up high, and you press and you hold that button for a couple seconds, and your dog goes to the counter, the food, the coffee table, the shoes, the socks, whatever, are hot, hot, hot.
All sucks.
And I don't want anything to do with it. And once, twice at the most.
3 times the lady.
3 times the lady. 3 times the lady who's like, hey, I don't want anything to do with that. And you'll find your dog making very different choices. Conversely, if you go the route of kind of like a pure positive thing, which is like management, avoidance, anything like that where you're not actually addressing it specifically, you're most likely going to find that behavior to just continue and continue and continue. Just like I posted today in Sean's rants, without consequences, behaviors don't change. So keep it simple. Make sure that you keep an eye on your dog. Crate him if you can, just to make it really easy. And if you can't crate him, then make sure you use tools, set him up for the mistake, correct the mistake, and get it done with.
Yep.
Cool?
Okay.
Yep.
Question number 9 comes from Casey Neckley.
Casey's back in town.
Casey's back. Casey says, hi, Sean and Laura. I have more of a theoretical question than something I'm personally struggling with.
Oh.
At what point is a dog e-collar savvy enough to be corrected with it for barking? I know it's going to vary from dog to dog, but do you need to have worked on a certain number of exercises or a certain amount of time before correcting for bad behaviors like barking? You obviously don't want to throw the collar on the dog on day 1 and give a high-level correction when he barks. I'd love some insight.
Casey Neckley.
Neckley.
So she's, what did she call this? This was a...
Just more of a theoretical.
Theoretical,
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to have to dive deep into my academic
Theory.
studies, right?
Yes.
So simple stuff. This is actually, it's a great question, and it's really simple stuff. And what I would do is, like you've probably heard me if you've listened to the rest of Q&A, is that for e-collar stuff, the best thing you can do, if you just hold on to this in your head, the best thing you can do is spend a few days conditioning your dog to what the collar means, right? It's just, there's no getting around that. So whether it's heel, whether it's place, whether it's recall, get your dog used to the sensation of this collar and that he turns the collar off by making good choices. Do that over and over and over again, right? Now, you spend 3, 4, 5 days teaching your dog recall or e-collar heel. Your dog's going to be like, man, slap the collar on. I know exactly what this means. I'm aces with this. This is great. Now your dog starts barking, whether it's in the crate, whether it's on the walk, regardless of whether. Did she say where it's at? I thought you were about to say something. You're just yawning.
Just yawning.
So regardless of what context or where you have the problem at, whether it's, like I said, on the walk, in the crate,
Yep.
in the bedroom, looking out the, like, bedroom window or the living room window, thanks for the save, or anything else like that, then you can start correcting. Start low and work your way up, right? Don't start like high blasting. Start low. And yeah, well, I'm serious. Like, it's easy for people to be like, my dog's barking, let me like, whoa, right? And so we're not opposed to dogs having significant consequences, but we want to make sure that this is all done as fair as possible to make sure that you get the results that you want and that your dog is as stable and balanced as you want. So, right, so it takes a few extra days and a little bit of nuance and like control to make sure we do this right. But here's the deal: so you do either one of those exercises. You do them for a handful of days, and then you can go after correcting your dog for barking. It doesn't need to be like, to be honest, like in Dallas, this is a really interesting story that I'll keep really brief. Was working with Quinn's dog.
Oh yeah.
Quinn. Quinn had a dog. He runs a small little board and train outside of Dallas, and his dog was barking. He was doing this, barking up the storm in the crate and being crazy, right? And he was like, I haven't put an e-collar on him, right? So put the e-collar on him, got his working level. We were in a tiny little space, like it might have been a walk-in closet or something close to that. And all I did was find the working level, and then with a short little leash, I started doing recalls, literally 3 to 4 foot recalls. Boom, when the dog would get to me, sit, little leash pressure up, dog's butt would hit the ground, off goes the button, and then I'd walk around him, make sure he stays in that sit, recall him out. It might have taken me 5 minutes, right? And I'm not saying to shortcut it, but what happened in that 5 minutes was the dog got very comfortable with the e-collar pressure and what it meant. It wasn't novel anymore, it wasn't weird, it wasn't peculiar. And then we started correcting for him barking and carrying on and whining, and it was all gone. So there, I don't share that to brag, I just share it to show that like dogs don't need like 100 years of conditioning to feel comfortable, but they do need enough time
to get used to like the collar sensation and that they control it. That's like the biggest thing. Like, oh, I actually turn this off. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. There's no suspicions of like, everything you said, but all that stuff of like, oh, this is like something that I turn off. That's why it's like confidence building stuff too for dogs in general. But like, oh, I do this, I do the right behavior and it turns off. Oh, cool. Then I can get to know that. Then the barking happens, you correct for that, and it's like, whoa, oh, I know this game. I get this.
I'm doing something wrong. Do you guys all get that? I hope you really get that at a deep level, because what Laura just shared is really kind of the basis of like low-level e-collar training, especially when you're doing escape training stuff. It's really about the dog is in control of the e-collar. You tell him to sit, button goes on, butt hits the ground, button goes away, dog learns, oh cool, when I do this exercise you asked me to do, the button goes away. When you ask me to recall, the button goes away when I commit to do it. So it's really that simple, but you do need to make sure you get that message across to the dog so he's not stressed out.
Yep.
Nice backup.
Thanks. All right.
Thanks, Casey.
Put it up. Bang. Question number 10.
What do we got here? We got...
Question number
Jiha?
10 comes from Jihei.
Jihei? Okay. Hey,
Jihei
Jihei.
says, how do you go about terminating a relationship with a client that keeps wasting your time and canceling appointments without any of the negative drama? I'd rather not play the blame game, but I need to get rid of this client. Oh, Jihei. We feel you.
Yeah. You can always just move cities.
Yeah, you could just say
relocate
I'm not a dog trainer anymore.
quietly.
Yeah, you can make up things. You could be like,
You could leave in the middle of the night.
You can,
Now you're like,
your
I'm in
number.
Nevada and I'm training here. Okay, seriously. Laura Morgan, we just got done with T3,
Yes.
teaching students all about
this good
how
stuff.
to make sure they get the right clients and all the good stuff. You want to share?
Okay. You want me to jump in on this?
I want you to jump in.
Okay.
It's like your bag, lady.
So, Jihei, we get probably 95% awesome clients that we don't feel the need for this kind of stuff. Sad day, huh? Now, the other 5% that kind of sneaks in. So the 95%, that's great, doesn't just come from like luck. It comes from us really setting up a lot of things like on our website and through a lot of stuff that you hear us talk about like on our T3 forum our T3 public Facebook page. We put up tips and stuff about that stuff all the time. But basically we want to like weed out clients that aren't going to be a great fit for us. Not just not great clients, but not a great fit for us. So 95% of the time we get it right. The other 5% we just have to deal with.
But that's a good percentage.
It's a good percentage, yeah. So when we do find ourselves in a situation like this, the reality is the best policy is just honesty, you know?
Man,
Who's
Hercules.
doing that? So, you know, you don't have to be mean. You don't have to be like, you're ridiculous, or, you know, all those things that you're probably talking to your friends about and talking to yourself about and all that. But the reality is, if a client's unhappy, it's probably not a good situation between you guys. Like, if you're not happy and a client's being difficult, they're probably unhappy too. So just mentioning that in the conversation or having that be a part of it is just like, I really don't feel like this relationship is the best use of your money and our time, both of us, because you both matter. So
Yep.
the client matters, of course, because they are the ones that need help, and they are obviously paying you for your services and all that stuff. But the reality is with dog training, man, it's teamwork effort. If
Yep.
you don't have a good team, you don't have anything.
You lose.
Yeah, you could be the best dog trainer in the world, but if your client isn't on board with the stuff that you do, you're going to have trouble.
Hercules.
Guys. So I would just say, just be totally honest. Just say, if the next thing that comes up, I don't know the specifics, but I am assuming there's a lot of kind of like conflict. So when the next conflict comes up, you can just be totally honest in an email or phone call or whatever you feel comfortable with, and just say, look, I'm really feeling like this isn't the most beneficial relationship for either of us. And by saying either of us, you're being clear, like, me too. Not just you. You don't call the shots here, but me too. I'm not feeling good about this. So I can refund you. You can refund money.
You can refer
them to another
That's
trainer.
a really, really great move.
We do that, we do that especially before we even meet clients. If we're already feeling like, this isn't going to be the best relationship, we're going to refer them on to someone else great. That could be a great fit for them. So you can refer them, you can refund money. Trust me, like, that money that you got isn't worth the hassle of having to deal with someone who isn't a good fit with you.
No, ma'am.
So find a way to maybe refund that money, stop the relationship, and you can make it, they may not be totally thrilled, but if you do make it about, like, I don't want you spending your time and money with me, I don't feel like this is the best relationship for me, I'm not doing my very best work with how our dynamic is, then, you've done your best to be honest, and that's really all you can do.
Yeah, and it's like any relationship, right?
Yeah.
So you jump in, you've got best expectations, and you guys start to like dance and date and hang out, and next thing you know, you're like, wow, this has got some friction, or wow, we're not meeting here, we're missing. And so with any relationship that's healthy, communication's always the first order of business, and if you're not getting what if you're not able to create something that feels positive and healthy, then you're both going to lose, right? So, but I'd say like Laura's really talking about, like, the trick here is to not be angry about it, to not be nasty. There's no better way to alienate a past client. Like, you could take this past client and make them like your biggest fan if you made some really great moves. Or you can take this client and make them your biggest enemy that's out to smack talk you about everybody. But if you really like get smart about this, you put your emotions aside and you say, you know what, like, we really tried, and I really like you, whatever it is. If you don't like them, then you have to make that up. But
you like working with your dog.
Yeah. I mean, you can always find something positive to say, but be really honest and just say, this isn't working for either of us, and my goal is for you to be a really satisfied customer, and I don't think you're going to get that with me, and I don't want to be responsible for you not getting your goals met, right? And so when people talk like that, it changes the whole dynamic from being this defensive, uncomfortable thing, and it turns it into a teamwork thing where somebody goes, wow, we've had some friction, but she's actually looking out for my best needs, and that's going to make her feel very different about you. And you can find, and this sounds crazy, but you can find somebody that may have seemed to be at odds with you, end up being one of your biggest champions, because they're like, we didn't see eye to eye, but you know what? She was super professional, and she looked out and made sure that I found somebody to work with. That was great. Now, I know it's a tall order. I'm not saying we're always perfect. I'm not saying it's always easy to do, but you asked our opinion on like what the best way to do it is, and that's the best way. And I can tell you what the worst way to do it is. The worst way is to get defensive, pissed off, nasty, start casting aspersions, being defensive, all that stuff. That will absolutely guarantee you negative word of mouth with this client. So this is when like personal development stuff comes into play, which is why we teach so much about this. This is when it comes into like, how do I move through this space that's uncomfortable and try and really hold my integrity together and behave in a way that I'm proud of.
Get my best stuff.
Get my best stuff. Yeah, because at the end of the day, something really cool to think about, I love this, is that who cares really? Like, if she's not going to be happy, at least you can be proud of yourself.
Yes.
Right? So like at the end of the day, if all else goes to hell, at least if you're proud of yourself, that's a pretty good way to walk away from something.
Yep.
So
honesty.
Yeah.
Do it. Let us know.
Yep.
Cool.
Good answer, lady.
Bye.
Cool.
We've got a bonus question from...
Yes.
We had so many great questions this week, guys.
We had like 26, 27 questions.
Like,
where the hell they all come from?
Shannon, Jesse, Rob, Lisa. She actually shouted us out. She got a prong collar in the mail. She's so excited. We've got Amy. We've got...
Maybe we do something, before you go to Nola. Maybe we do a little pickup.
We'll see what kind of questions we get on Saturday.
Okay.
Things are picking up, so which is really cool.
Yeah.
But guys, we have to stick it to 10, or we're gonna be like a 3-hour show. And
and you guys are already like falling into comas on us.
Yes.
So like we don't want to do that.
So remember that if you have a pressing question, you can always do an hour-long Skype session with us. Like, honestly, we're not just like pushing Skypes because it's actually hard for us to find time to do them.
Yep.
But if you can do them, we can see where we can fit it in. It's $150 for an hour, and most likely you get both of us, and we'll just work you through all the stuff.
You can send us videos, so we can actually like see what's going on and help problem solve.
And it's basically an hour of like hands-on, not hands-on, obviously, but over the phone or over Skype, like, we're going to do this. This is to your specific situation with your dog and just getting you to the right place. So if you have a question that's super pressing, email us at thegooddog.la@gmail.com, and that will you can say, look, I'm looking for a Skype or a phone call consult, and then Britt or I will set it up, and it'll be easy peasy. So if that's pressing, let us know. Or if you need a trainer in your area, you can always go to our website and check out our trainer referrals.
That's great.
To see if there's anything there.
Yeah, and we actually do a lot of phone consults, and we've had some really nice success with people that we've never met before that are doing really well with like e-collar trained dogs and all that good stuff.
Yep.
So don't discount the non-hands-on as far as being valuable.
Yep.
All right?
All right, so our bonus question is from Bethany. Bethany says, she's like, there's a repost from last week, and there's already 18 comments. Essentially, she wished she could have made the T3. Okay, repost below. I just met with a woman with the dog so well trained, obedience-wise, she could show her in competitions. Perfect heel, place, threshold, come, etc. without food. She's done tons of training for years. With no improvement on the dog around other dogs. Severe whining and barking, not pulling because that's how well trained the dog is, but the state of mind is a mess. I'd love to know your process for trying to teach what an e-collar means to the dog that's so well versed on everything, even waiting at crate and thresholds, etc., etc. So she taught her everything using food and prong. We work on setting up triggers at a distance to distract the dog, and using low-level e-collar pressure to call the dog away. The dog's so good, the dog's just like on point. Prong corrections don't matter. Is there ever a situation where you just correct a dog with the e-collar that hasn't been taught e-collar routine yet? Because I feel like that's where we are. She's just so obedient,
Yeah.
It's the first dog I've come across
But
that's
the dog's got no e-collar conditioning?
They're doing a little bit of it. Low-level e-collar pressure to call the dog away.
Yeah, I'm a little confused because it's
I think it's just that the dog's so, like, will do everything. Like, I'll come to you and call, no problem. I'll do this, I'll do this.
Yeah, super
obedient. There's still state of mind issues.
Okay.
So, they just started adding a second on low level to mark the commands and associate the e-collar that she already knows. I love using it on continuous. It slows the doggy brains down. I'm thinking that maybe isn't an option with this
Smart
dog.
lady. Yeah.
Yeah. So, cool. Bethany.
Who picked this last question? Where's the one of like, which prong collar do you use? I'm like, woohoo! Okay, so this is an interesting one, and I think Laura would agree that like this kind of dynamic without seeing the dog's a bit of a tough one,
really hard.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because the dog, I could look at that dog and be like, that's a way overly aroused dog, and he needs to like have this or that. Yep. Hard to say. It sounds like he's a high drive dog or she's a high drive dog, and so you've got all of this kind of like intensity going on.
Sean, hold on one sec.
Yep. Okay, so we've talking about this high drive action and how that can be really a challenge to work with, intensity, which can be a real challenge to work with. Um, I've worked with a bunch of, this is interesting, I've worked with a bunch of flyball dogs, and I've worked with dogs that are like ridiculously talented, like unbelievably fast, could set world records, and but couldn't complete the exercises even though they've been like trained immaculately. And so I know that that's not the same situation that you got going on here, but I just want to share this story real quick, and that's that with this one dog I worked with that was actually my team captain's dog, Border Collie, one of the fastest dogs on the team, could never compete, could never put points on the board in years and years of doing flyball. Even though she was a great trainer, the dog would lose its mind and get so worked up that it couldn't focus, couldn't concentrate, and couldn't complete any of the races. So what did I do? I took the dog, put it on either a slip lead or a prong collar, brought it over to where the race was, put it in a downstay, and didn't let it stare at the dogs running by. And all I did was make that dog be calm for about 45 minutes. No one had ever done it before. No one had ever said, knock it off, lay down, zip it up, and don't look at those dogs, and do it in a really like strict, not forceful, but like non-negotiable fashion. And the interesting upside of the story is that right after that, we did our first race of the day, and that was the first time in years that dog had ever done multiple successful race period, but ended up doing multiple successful races and putting points on the board for the first time in its life. So it's such an indicator of what calming exercises will do for a lot of these high drive, high performance dogs, so they can kind of sort things out and kind of keep their nuts and bolts like kind of all like tightened up and not out of their minds, so they can actually thrive, right? So I would be working a hell of a lot more on calming exercises. Come on down, Laura Morgan. So I'd be working a lot more on calming exercises just like I did on this dog, right? So everybody with this flyball dog was like, let's get it juiced up so it goes faster. But the problem was when it got juiced up, it couldn't process any good, valuable thoughts, right? So my pity Belle over here would beat her every time, even though she wasn't quite as fast, but she was in a good state of mind. So I would work on calming exercises and an off switch, right? So here's this crazy high-trained dog with a messy state of mind. I guarantee you this dog does not have an off switch that's non-negotiable. And when we talk about a non-negotiable off switch, that means like you go to sit, you go to down or you go to place, and you don't move no matter what the hell in the world goes on around you, and you reinforce that with e-collar stuff, right? Now, I know you're just in the beginnings of patterning and going through that, but I would heavily recommend that you actually train this dog to do all these exercises on e-collar. You don't have to use it when you're in performance, but use it to get the dog into a good state of mind.
There's no performance.
I thought they're doing obedience work and things like that.
I mean, she's saying the dog's so obedient that it could be performance.
Oh, but it's not actually doing it. Okay, so forget that. So just get that e-collar on, right? Get that e-collar on.
Just layer it. Layer the e-collar like you're doing.
If the dog already knows it, it's the easiest thing in the world. The dog knows sit down, place, recall, any of that stuff, or heel.
Yeah.
It's so easy to pattern low-level e-collar training over it, and then you can like ride off into the sunset with wonderful stuff. But the whole thing is that this dog doesn't sound like it's ever been asked to do anything but be like up here.
Yeah. And I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna like all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that no one's ever tried. That doesn't mean that hasn't been a priority, and that if we weren't talking to the owner wouldn't be like, I heartily disagree. This dog knows how to hold sit, da 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 da. Yeah. But we're talking about like major duration work and conditioning this dog to be able to like if it's a high drive dog, you go lay in place for 3 hours while my dogs play tug all around you, and people come to the door and the UPS guy comes in. don't you dare move.
Yep.
So we can like start to recalibrate your mindset, and we can really like reset your nervous system and get the dog to be in a really relaxed, calm state that can tolerate all sorts of action going on around them without becoming overly stimulated. So, you know, when you talk about, like, once again, it gets to my main point here was highly trained dog,
Yep.
messy state of mind.
Yep.
We get a lot of that. So the messy state of mind comes from lack of impulse control, lack of calmness, even if he's doing good obedience, but it's still lack of impulse control, lack of calmness, and it's causing the dog to struggle.
Yep.
So let's go for some real, like, solid duration work. Slow the dog's brain down. Don't speed it up. I'd get away from like food. I'd get away from all these extra things that cause more stimulation.
Yep.
And then do some light, you know, however, like, I'm kind of contradicting myself. I was going to say do some light conditioning, but I prefer you do like full e-collar work.
Yeah.
But if that's not possible for whatever the program.
She's already doing it, so like, yeah, just layer everything. We're talking crate.
She is going to do
threshold.
everything with it?
I think so. So
Okay.
I think she's already started, so it'd be cool to layer everything. Like crate, if she's running into the crate or being like, or if she's having, like doing any sort of pushy stuff or thresholds, light tap on the e-collar. So we're just teaching her. And then you were saying the thing about the continuous button. We want to make sure that once she's patterned to it, that you're not prompting for everything, or that you're not, you know, press and holding for everything.
Yep.
Once she learns it, then we want to just give her the command, even though she already knows it, we know, but
Get
give
off
her
the
the command
button.
to off the e-collar button, so she doesn't get more like, what's going on? When
Yeah.
do I come? You know. So then you just call her, and then if she doesn't come, bang, you give her a little tap on the button. But the reactivity and the dog stuff, knock that out with the e-collar once everything's patterned and once she knows what the stim means. You know, that
Yeah.
shouldn't even be there. So her living in this hyped state enough to react to dogs and be silly and kind of like be on edge and all that, that you can get away by stopping the reactivity and tons of duration work.
Yeah. And to be honest, anytime we have reactivity, what do? E-collar heel,
Yep.
right? We just slow the dog's brain down,
Yep.
get him into an e-collar heel. You can watch my video. I know this is Bethany. Bethany's seen our stuff.
Yep.
So Bethany, go to the video on YouTube, which is Fusa the GSD or German Shepherd dog e-collar heel, and watch that, and then replicate that. And then once that dog is solid with that heel, then you can use corrections for position, and you can use corrections for targeting other dogs.
Yep.
Find levels that dog cares about to where the dog stops reacting and calms down and prioritizes what you're looking for. All of these things can be put together, but they demand more training, they demand more accountability, and they demand more like duration work and calming exercises to get the dog in the right space. So it's a super long and drawn out question. This has been like War and Peace, this
Longest
episode.
episode.
This might be the 3-hour episode.
Thank you, Bethany.
Yeah,
Rock
thanks,
it out
Bethany.
and let us know how it goes.
And thanks for sticking with it, because I know it's the second time she asked the question.
Yep.
And so I'm glad we could get it out to you.
Sorry, Instagram, we didn't get to you. A lot of questions this week, but maybe people are doing the holiday push.
Yeah. And we'll see what we get next week, and maybe
Yeah.
we'll add some of the ones we didn't get to into it.
Yeah.
So, guys, love you so much. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the support. I know last week's episode with Jeff Gelman got lots of hits.
Loved it.
Lots of
Loved
people
the
had a
Gelman.
great time.
Yep.
Jeffrey's always a blast and informative, strangely enough. And so we were really happy to have him. And so thanks for the support. And we'll just keep trying to make this show better and better and better for you guys.
Thanks,
So,
guys.
see you next week.
Next week.